behalf of SMUCE, I wish to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land we are gathered today and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, I'm Vinith and that's Gav. And on behalf of SMUCE, I'd like to warmly introduce Gil Garnier from Biopria, along with Ruth and David, who are Ph.D. students in conjunction with Monash University. So, hi everyone, nice to meet you guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Peanut.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, SMUCE and all students, and many thanks for this opportunity to address you. Basically, a few years ago, you made the choice to become an engineer. Some of you decided to be a chemical engineer, others to have double degree, and you each had a different path. And now the end of the tunnel is about to come. You see the light at the end, and there's a little bit of clouds about COVID, and you basically wonder what's going on. So as a professor and as a director, what I would like is to give you basically a perspective and present you with some options. Because basically you're going to commit, the end of your commitment will end soon, and you're about to take another commitment. So what I would like for you is to understand what are the possibilities and how do we go. Now there's the COVID. We can see the COVID as a huge perturbation, which it is, but perturbation means opportunity. And what I would like to show you is a bit how we took advantage of this perturbation positively. So if I may, I would like to present you a little presentation. I will not hit you with any technicality. There's no equation, nothing, just lots of nice picture to really show you a philosophy of what is possible. So as student, what I do expect you is everybody should interview for a job and have also look at other opportunities to continue your formation. And the job, of course, you're going to start with interview with job you don't want to be really ready for the good one. So here I'm going to talk about perspective should you decide to consider to go a little bit further in your degree. And you don't have to decide between study and industry. And I will show you in the next few minutes an opportunity. So if I may, I would share my screen. Basically, I call it some industry-linked PhD opportunity. And what I would like is to give you some real example. And basically, all what I show you has made the news in the last year. So just to tell you that we can be relevant. So first, BOPRIA, it is an institute. Basically, it's a collectivity of staff that has the same mind. And basically, what we want is to do something useful. We're doing some strategic research that is of use for industry. Each of our projects are funded by industry. And you can see you have some of colleagues in chemical engineering, material engineering, chemistry, and biochemistry, and a few international in France and Cambridge. So that's BioPria. We have 3 platforms, so the Diagnostic, functional material, and what I call Beyond. And I will present you some example of the Diagnostic because our student will witness and give a perspective on the functional material and beyond. So I would like you to show there's a lot of perspective. Okay, we are building, but the building is just a shell. And here you see it's empty. We have lots of equipment, but you know, these are enabler. What is interesting is what you do with that and how you form consortium and how you gather together to solve challenge of the society. So I will show you a few examples, and you must have seen the news. Basically, that's the team of the COVID team. When the university closed in March, I think 27, 28, the next day we reopened, and basically we have 2 initiatives. So that's basically the team, and that was under the leadership of Simon Curry and all the team. And basically what we ask is some current PhD student to drop all the studies to try to solve a problem for society. Basically what we wanted is to use some technology, some expertise to develop a fast and easy to use diagnostic. And that's what we did. So basically we rely on the blood test. So that's the card that you can buy, and when you give blood, that's how it's analyzed. But instead of putting the antibodies, we replace that by a bioconjugate that is specific to the COVID antibody in the blood. And if you have that, it agglutinate and it functions the same way. And basically that's the eureka moment that you have someone behind, and these are 2 PhD students that Rodrigo and Jana that just drop everything to work on that, and in 1 month we succeed. These are students that made difference. We're in talk with industry. We want to commercialize that. We were a little bit less visible, but as important was another initiative. Again, the student dropped everything and we found some volunteers, and you have Ruth here. You have Masha and Lala that basically developed from scratch with industry. That means every day we were talking with industry, a paper gown. This is a laminate paper gown that resists virus. And for that, we had to engineer a new system, and you have to learn as an engineer what is a virus, how do you work with virus, and so on. So we form a consortium with a few staff, and you recognize Mark and we have Joan and that formed the team to solve a problem. And basically we were working with the paper industry, and it is a technical success, but we need only 2 rolls to make all the gowns that Australia need at the moment. So basically it was found not commercially viable, but still. You probably heard also about our laser lady, and this is Claire Mendoza that developed a new to the world laser system to incubate blood. When you have a diagnostic and you lose blood, every second counts. And typically it is used, the way it is heated, we need to heat at 27 degrees with the antibody to form a good complex and get the diagnostic. And it is a polypropylene card that is put in water. So you have an insulator and you rely on convection or conduction for heat transfer. It's a huge nonsense. So what we did, or what she did, is basically she developed a laser system that will heat the little card with the laser. You can see in 30 seconds we reach the 27, and then we control. So it's a P.I.D., it's a very simple system, effective, and we can control in a fifth of the time we can hit the blood and therefore save life. You must have seen that a few years ago also, and during an open door, I think 2 years ago at the last open door at Monash, we present the GLIF card. So basically it's to test the tap of your blood. And basically it was done by series of up to 1,000, and this was all done by Ph.D. student in one of the lab, and we found volunteers and all work together and use a bit of technology, laser cutter and flowmeter and so on. And I'll show you how it works. Basically a picture shows was 1,000 words. So you put a drop of your blood and we engineer a system to distribute the blood, and the blood will wet the paper on which we inject some antibodies in letters. So A with the antibody A, B with the B, and so on. And then you put a saline solution and it just prints your blood group. So basically we did that already 10 years ago, and it took we're commercializing the project, but you can see this is a new type of engineering. We engineer for simplicity. You don't see the complexity. Anybody can, your grandmother can use the test in and test herself. So that's a new type of engineer that really solve the problem and include the society aspect of the problem. And we also, for that, we had to stabilize antibody. So we want use a synchrotron, we go to install. So always use the best tools. Now I'll show you a few examples before we turn on to the panel. This is the PhD at that of Michael. And basically, he worked as part of a linkage grant to develop new to the word blood diagnostic. And here his concept is to print and to do a very fast test on blood. So we print an antibody, a drop of antibody, we print the blood, and if the blood is compatible to the antibody, it forms agglutinate, so a little chunk, and on paper it doesn't wick fast. It wicks to a small stain, while if it's not specific, it's a negative and it goes much faster. So what you can see, this is the curve for the positive, this is the curve for the negative. So in 10 seconds, we can differentiate if it's a positive or a negative. And here we started with the blood tapping. So it's the world's fastest blood tapping. We do that in 10 seconds. And when the COVID crisis came, guess what? Instead of having antibody, we used the bioconjugate and our team of BioNano developed. And the curve is pretty much the same. Instead of being 10, it's 30 seconds. So Michael developed the world's fastest COVID test, with 2 orders of magnitude faster than anybody. And he was a PhD. And again, instead of sitting at home and turning the thumb or getting nervous, he dropped everything and worked and did that. So that's basically the spirit, and that's what we can do. So I'll give you another example. This is Rodrigo. And basically, Rodrigo developed nanocellulose hydrogel for biomedical application. So we did quite a few, and I would just present you one that is very cool. And basically, it's a replacement of matrigel. If I have a cancer, what we will do, we'll take a sample of my tumor and the good tissue, and going to incubate my tumor to see what type of cell, and then try different type of drugs to see which one I react the most. However, this little tube that you show here, matrigel, costs $1,000. That's a nonsense. What Rodrigo did is we did that out of nanocellulose. We take the tree, the pulp, and we produce a gel. And this is less than 1 cent. And basically, we have the same type of morphology. We grow organoids. So here we put some little organoids assembly of intestine, and you can see it's pretty much the same. So that's another success, and Rodrigo is a PhD student that just finished. The last one that I present you is the work of Merek, and Merek developed a paper diagnostic for the fibrinogen. If I'm involved in a car crash and I'm bleeding, the ambulance will come, and they'll have two choices. Either they give me from fibrinogen or they don't. If I'm in a normal state and they give me fibrinogen, I would come in a shock and I would die. However, if like in most of the case, I'm in a shock and I don't produce fibrinogen, I'm bleeding to death, this kind of injection would save my life. So what we wanted is to develop a paper diagnostic that very rapidly tell if I'm beyond or below this concentration. And basically, this is a test that we manufacture with our industrial partner. And what we hope is a year or so, it will be part of all the ambulance in Australia and in the world. So I will stop with that. But what I wanted to show you is research PhD is an option. All the project I show you that was just on the biomedical, because we have a team that will talk about basically transforming biomass using sustainability to develop new chemicals and to help agriculture to develop new super absorbents instead of plastic for diapers. It will be all cellulose, and we work in team. So basically, you're part of the consortium, and you can see we have our industrial, you see a few staff, our industrial partners are here, the student, and we all work together. So everybody has a project, but you're part of a team, and we look at opportunity. And here, opportunity, you will see some. Melanie was part of the COVID initiative that worked on the paper gown, and David spent 4 months in France. Well, the real reason is we wanted to improve his knowledge of champagne, so we want him to Reims. But a side reason was also to learn chemistry in one of the best groups in the world. So with that, I will stop and we will address questions, but you probably want to ask to David and Ruth Melanie. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Gil. That was really
Thank you very much, Gil.
Yeah.
If I may want to say, we have 15 PhD opportunity now, 4 in diagnostic, 11 are for basically to use the biomass for new product. So that's what I should have said. But I wanted to give you not a perspective of a PhD as a career. And what I should say also is 90% of my students work directly in industry. They don't go in academics. They can, they have the choice, but they're really trained for industry. With that, I would stop and let you continue.
Thank you very much. That was really insightful and really interesting to know the different sort of PhD projects that have been going on at Monash. So you told that these are some of the many projects that you've got, and you also have projects under biomass conversion. So could you give us a little bit more information on that? So like some sort of specific examples that have been going on, which are very interesting and would be really interesting for students.
Ruth and David, you want to talk about your project? These are 2 projects of the current industry transformation hubs. We have one of the few very prestigious industry transformation hub. We're the only one in the country to have had 2 working with industry. And do you want to talk about your project?
Yes, I think I can start. So my name is Ruth. I'm currently in my third year of my PhD, and I'm supervised by Professor Gil Garnier, and my project is about superabsorbents for agriculture applications. So in my project, what I basically do is I developed a new nanocellulose superabsorbent based on cellulose. And what I'm doing here is using this superabsorbent to increase the water retention in agriculture. So I don't know if you're aware that agriculture uses around 70% of the global water consumption. So agriculture is the industry that consumes most of the water in the world. So our aim here is to make a superabsorbent that's able to absorb this water and take it as a water reservoir to release the water slowly to the plants. So in this way, we'll save tons and metric tons volumes of water. And I don't know if you were aware that we have a greenhouse in Monash.
We don't know, no.
So we have a greenhouse. It's close to the Jock Marshall Reserve, and currently I'm in the greenhouse. If you want, I can give you a little bit of a tour around here, quickly tour.
Sure, that would be great.
So yeah, so after my 2 years of working in this project, I've developed this superabsorbent, and what I'm doing now is time to test this superabsorbent in plants. So let me see if I can. So this is the greenhouse, and I'm about to start this project, which is about growing bok choy. So in here you can see the seedlings. So this is a small plant of bok choy that I'll put in these big pots to further study the superabsorbent. I have two examples in here. This is one bok choy with superabsorbent. You can see the soil that it's really porous compared to this one that is all compact. So this is one of the projects that we're currently doing, and is linked directly to the industry. And we have an industry partner working on this as well.
That's really interesting. You talked about industry partners. Do you usually have industry partnerships for your PhD opportunities?
Yes, actually, as Jill mentioned, we currently have 15 projects. Each of the projects is directly linked to the industry. And the way that we do this is that we either have meetings with the industry once a month, or in my case, for example, I had the opportunity to travel to Tasmania. My industry partner is from Tasmania. So I went there to meet my industry partner, do some studies, and then I came back. So yeah, that's the relationship that we have with our partners.
That's really amazing to see that you've got international industry partnership and not just in Australia. So that gives you a whole lot of variety to explore as well. David, would you like to add anything to that? Would you like to tell us about your project?
Yeah, sure. Probably I'll start by introducing myself.
Yes,
I'm David Mendoza, a third-year PhD student as well. And my project is basically focusing on chemical modifications of nanocellulose-based materials, same as Ruth. And what we're actually focusing on is to explore novel chemical routes to modify nanocellulose for different high-value applications. Two of my studies were focused on nanocellulose gels, which Jill mentioned in his presentation a while ago. So in those studies, we were trying to control the carboxylation rates of nanocellulose so as to control the properties of the cellulose gels for different applications. And the other one, which Jill mentioned, is our international collaboration with one of the world's top research institute, which is URD-ABI, AgroBiotech. So I've been there for almost 4 months to have my 4-month internship. So I learned there different organic chemistry reaction techniques, which I basically applied here in Monash when I returned. So in that project, what we're basically doing is to develop UV absorbing cellulose nanomaterials. So what we do is we use bio-based and naturally occurring phenolic compounds, which apparently has strong UV absorption in different regions. So what we did is we grafted those compounds on the surface of cellulose nanocrystals and develop UV absorbing materials, which can also be used for other applications such as antibacterial and antioxidant properties. So yeah, currently what we're doing is we're using these UV absorbing cellulose nanocrystals for cosmetic applications and for as nanofillers for polymer films as well. So this is basically, we're transforming naturally occurring and biomass derived materials into something of high value.
Right, that's really interesting. That you've got a very similar sort of project, but it's completely varied and it has its own, uniqueness. And even in terms of what you told about for the industry partnerships, again, like you get that sort of experience, by exploring just outside your boundaries as well. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
I've got a question for you guys as well. Just I had a query about. So I noticed you guys mentioned how that PhD students would still participate in these projects. However, they're more suited to industry as opposed to academia. Do you reckon? Do you think that there would be any striking differences between conventional chemical and process engineering, as opposed to, like, let's say, a research-based role?
I want to answer is the world has changed. First thing, with the COVID, a year ago, would you have dreamed to have a recorded interview like that? No. And when you come back, it won't be the same. That's the first thing. The second, when you come back, you see all the industry has changed and the globalization has been stopped and accelerated in some part. So the role of the chemical engineering has changed. And basically, it's really global. And if we had a problem with the PPE, it's because everything is made in one country for the rest of the world. So if you have done the supply, we're lost. So we need this nimbleness. So something that came is the nimbleness as really come and is needed. So here, basically, for all the PhD we discuss, we start, first, you're not student anymore. You're a research engineer, you're a research associate, and you have the full responsibility. It's basically the student have the budget and they tell, I need that, and it's like, instead of being in apprenticeship in an industry, it's one in university. So my point is, when you finish, apply. If you have a great job and it's what you want, fantastic. But don't sit and doing something stupid when you can use your brain and do something intelligent. And I wanted to provide this option, because basically it's really a job, and this is at the top of the world. So that's what I wanted to show. And now, the difference between really engineering, research, everything has changed. It's kind of a continuum. Because what I say, it's a technical success, and I mentioned it's a business. We decided to stop, and the industry is much more nimble now. And all our industrial partners, they work the international. They are based in Australia, but they sell all over the world, and that's basically what you face. We're 5 here, and we're Australian. I'm Australian, but born in Canada. And born in Philippines and Mexico, and gentleman, it's probably, I don't know, it might be the real Australian, but that's a reality. And we work, it's a global world. We go outside and we have to export our knowledge outside. We have to be able to provide a key advantage outside. So it's basically, when I was trained, it was basically technology and economics. Now we still have that, but you have a social responsibility. So you must have seen everything is really, we have the sustainability, and also we take the consumer. I want something my grandma would have been able to use. And let me tell you, you need a lot of engineering and psychology. And here we didn't discuss about the use of design. So you must have seen what we need is, we assume you're a good chemical engineer, but we're going to expand and apply that outside. And that's what we need to do. And that means the next step is to be able to take the big plunge and a PhD is one way. So, Ruth, did you ever thought you would become a leader, world leader of material for agriculture, and David basically to do this sophisticated chemistry for cosmetic and packaging and so on? And that's the word. Have I answered your question?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very fruitful field, is what It's not conventional. The world is changing, and then, like you mentioned, the role of a chemical engineer now is completely different, and we're basically the pioneers. So it's definitely a great opportunity for PhD candidates or even undergraduates. Would you say, Jill? Yeah, undergraduates
Yes,
to get involved.
because what you probably, some of you must have done some research project with us, and every year we hired a few research students because we work by choice. We work mostly with PhD. Some have postdoc and research fellow. No, we have just enough research fellow to help, to support, to give this experience in the lab. But we work with basically you finish your undergrad or master's, and you train and you come. So that's. But the switch is when you come, you're an engineer, and basically we have the concept of volunteering. You will be volunteer to do a few things, assume a few responsibility, like in the real world.
Sorry, if I may add to what Gil said, I think that yeah, he's right. As a PhD and as a chemical engineer, you have a social responsibility with the world, and I think that's one of the parts that it's really important in Biopria. So Biopria stands for Bioresource Processing Institute. So all of the projects that we have is they are sustainable, and they are green chemistry, green chemical engineering. So yeah, so we're getting with this social responsibility.
I guess Jill and Ruth are both correct because we have. I'm not a chemical engineer by profession. I'm a chemist, by the way, but I think it's practically the same. So as a chemist or a chemical engineer and being a researcher, we have the social responsibility to do that, especially during this pandemic. So yeah.
And what I wanted to show, the pandemic has changed. That means the job market is different. The type of job are different. And there's still excellent job. But we have to be, I think the traditional world of chemical engineering from the gas, the oil has changed. The heavy industry is leaving Australia and really going into mega factory in a few locations in the world. But we can see that as a threat, but really as an opportunity also, because you have to see what is Australia, what is the world. Australia for me is entry door of the Southeast Asia. We work a lot with our partners who have a lot of exchange. And that's how we are. We're a huge land, low density. We're the world leader in agriculture. We're a world leader in biomed. We have very high standard of living and of sustainability. And we will absolutely not compromise on those. And how can we use technology to help? And here you must have seen, we don't make barriers. We have chemists, we have physicists, we have chemical engineer, we have a biomed engineer, we have double degrees, we have people in engineering and art and design. So, and that's the way it is. It's not a little box chemical engineering, and now we just embrace and apply the concept. Like we can apply chemical engineering to the nanostructure, the antibody. That's really we do chemical engineering, or to consider basically the stratosphere. And somewhere in between, that's where the institute is active. So that's the new, I think, the way to look at things also. And PhD means completely academic and big equation. Yes, there's an equation. Yes, these are these tools, but these are tools to reach an end. And if you're interested and you have to do it, we don't find satisfaction in playing with this equation and turning them around. We go straight to the point. That's a tool. We solve the problem and up we go. And working with industry can be really fascinating.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's really exciting to know. You've addressed a lot of effects of COVID and the pandemic from this year, and I'm sure it has affected even all the PhD research as well. What do Ruth and David think of how has the pandemic affected your daily routine, and how has it even affected your research?
Yeah, I can probably start. So I think it was in May. I think it was in April to May that we were not totally allowed to go to the labs because of the lockdown. And then in early June, I suppose, we were given team rosters to go back to the lab. So that means that we have a limited time to perform experiments. Especially personally, my project is highly based in the lab. I cannot just sit down in my room and write. So I need to gain results. So it has definitely affected the results of my project. The pandemic itself is quite fearful. You don't know if you're going to be infected at all. So you really need to be careful. And I guess the limited time, the limited space that we have, because right now in the labs, we have a limited number of people allowed in the lab. So not every time that you can access the lab, you have to book it. You have to book the equipment that you need. So everything adds up. So it has definitely affected us negatively. But yeah, I think we just need to adjust.
You have to give your perspective. Yes, you have a different perspective also.
Yeah,
Thanks, David.
yeah. I think in a way it's a matter of taking advantage of the opportunity. So as David mentioned, we had some difficulties at the beginning because of the pandemic during May and June. What happened in my case is that instead of staying at home, I decided to work in a different project for 1 month. And I stopped my PhD duties to work in a different project. And once we were allowed to come back to work in the labs, what I've been doing now, even with the current restrictions, is to plan ahead my work and what I need to do. So I'm basically working as usual. So in my case, I can say that for me, nothing has changed. So yeah. So for example, if we were only allowed to work between 2 or 3 days per week in the labs, so I organize my experiments during those 3 days, and then the next 2 days to work from home and writing, so do some literature review and things like that. So it was just a change of plans.
And in industry, it's the same. I can take our colleagues, our friends from Dolox. They went back to the lab, the office 2 weeks ago, and we work with a lot of biodiagnostic companies, and some of the ones that were closer to the blood, they were allowed and they had some activity, and the essential like VZ, Hemokinis had some, but part of CSL did not. So, and it is exactly like that for everybody. So I think it's not different.
Yeah, that's really contrasting, and it shows how everyone has adapted to the situation, especially as David said, you need the results, and you need to be there and perform the experiments to get the results. But as Ruth said, you also can plan and make it more efficient. It's only driven you to make things better, and to adapt to the situation.
Definitely. I had a couple of questions as well, specifically regarding in regards to, because we're talking about what are the benefits and repercussions, I guess, of pursuing a PhD career as an undergraduate chemical engineer, and I just wanted to ask David and Ruth specifically about, in terms of completing your PhD and in your time doing your PhD, what are some attributes or skills that you've acquired that would be beneficial in, let's say, an industry or a future context?
Okay, I'll start as well. Probably I'll probably start by giving you the reason why I applied for a PhD in the first place. Ever since I was passionate of science, of learning and development. So I think to apply for a PhD, what you really need to have first is the passion to develop yourself. Because if you don't have that, I highly doubt that you're going to finish your PhD. I particularly chose Monash primarily because Monash University Chemical Engineering is the #1 university in Australia. No doubt about that. I was fortunate enough to be chosen in Biopria by Professor Gil Garnier, and throughout my PhD journey, I've learned a lot of not just technical skills, but interpersonal skills and networking, because we're directly involved in the industry. We have partnerships with the industry. In my case, I was fortunate enough to be sent over to France to have a 4-month internship training, which is really rarely given to almost everyone. So, yeah.
I think similar to David, I don't know, I decided, I think since I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to do a PhD. However, when I finished my undergrad, I started working in the industry. So I worked in the industry for about 4 years, but I always had this, I worked in the industry for 4 years, but I always had this, this thirst for knowing more, for knowledge. So that's when I decided to do my PhD and to pursue my master's first and then my PhD. And so I chose Monash because I looked at opportunities at Melbourne Uni. That's where I did my master's degree. And particularly there, there were no industry-related projects. And I knew that after finishing my PhD, I was interested in going back to the industry. So I knew that I didn't want to work in the academia. And I found in Monash that they had industry-related projects and projects that were really interesting. So that's why I decided to study at Monash. And I think some of the skills that I have gained, apart from knowing more about different topics and professional stuff, is more about soft skills, as David said, and also networking. So like you gain more experience in critical thinking, communication skills, writing. So yeah, it's many, many different things that you develop here.
That's really exciting. Yeah. And as you said, like your plan was not to go to academia and go to industry. I just wanted to bring up this question that what sort of prospect do you have after you finish your PhD?
Having a PhD opens you the door to many different opportunities. So in my case, I like to work either in a process engineering position, doing some design, developing new processes, or even as a research engineer, for example, in CSIRO, or as a postdoc. So that's where I'm heading to. So I'd like to work in the industry as a process engineer.
Yeah. Personally, I haven't really thought about if I'm going to pursue academia or the industry. Depends, but I would like to think that my PhD journey is some sort of a training. So it trains you on how to be prepared for either in the academe or in the industry. So everything that I'm learning here in my PhD journey, I can definitely use that whether I'm going to the industry or in the academe. I guess.
Yeah, that's really exciting that you've got different opportunities that you can go for after completing your PhD. Jill, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, because it's basically, I think, what you're all about to make a choice. You're going to finish and you like to make a choice. In the best of the world, you'll have directly the job that you want. Otherwise, you'll have to take a little path to reach that. So I think what is critical is the first 2 years after finishing a critical, you have to do something in the field. You may not do something completely relevant. And I wanted to present the PhD as an option. Here we didn't talk about management. One of my students, Thomas Salman, is now VP Innovation in Borealis, a world company, and is really, that's management. And there's also Aisu that is also a manager at BASF. So it doesn't, by being what we think is the the PhD is just academia, it's just technology. It's completely wrong. This is like you took 4 years to become an engineer. You can take 3 years to have a PhD. And after that, it's a set of tools. And it's not, there's a lot of technology. And you must have noticed I didn't put the impact on technology here. Because if you're interested, you're clever, you finish, you are engineer, you'll find a way. That's not a concern. But we have to think about using it differently, you know, in the reactor, instead to see a cell as a reactor, to see the atmosphere as a reactor, to see a tree as a reactor. So that's where we're going to train you. And after that, where do we go? There's what we want and where we go. I'll give my profile. I'm Canadian. I did my undergrad, my master's in Canada, my PhD in a big guru in the wood, in the first wood composite wood polymer in the world. Then I work at McGill University, which is the #1 in Canada and top in the field as a professor, but paid by industry. I did that 8 years. Then I stopped and worked for Kimberly-Clark as a team leader, and I developed a lot of new products and everybody using the word. I did that for 5 years. And then I was hired to change a paper institute into something modern, and we changed that into a bioresource and biodiagnostic. And you know, I'm here. Next year, I don't know. We'll see what's going on. And this is my third job. I work in 3 or 4 continents. I'm traveling. I'm going all over. I have partners in Cambridge. I have partners all over. Partners, friends in industry. That's the life of an engineer. So you know, academia, industry. It's just into what it just goes from one to the other. And so, what I want to tell to all of you, you have opportunity and the way is to be pragmatic. You apply. So I would encourage, if you have an interest, apply for a job, apply for a PhD. And after that, see what's going on. What is the best offer? Typically, you have an excellent and 2 lousy one. Guess what? You're going to go for the excellent one. And you're not planning the retirement initially. Retirement hopefully would be into the years, not before. So just to go and follow a bit of the passion and see what's going on. And you know the strategy, everybody, even if you know you want to do a PhD, apply for industry. Apply first for a job you don't want, because it's a practice, it's a game. You need to get this training and apply to interesting job. And then you apply you look for PhD and you see what's going on. That's what I did for each of my degree. I had a job offer in industry and a job offer in university. You're not stuck. It's by choice that you do a PhD. But it is a career option and you have to take it as a job. I think I never ask my students how many hours they work, because it's not 7 hours and 25 minutes or something like that.
So adding to that, adding to Jill's advice, David and Ruth, do you guys have any specific advice you'd like to give to students that are in the 3rd year or even perhaps in the 2nd or 1st year of their degrees? Perhaps any insight?
Yeah.
David.
Yeah. I think I'll start by probably convincing our undergrad students to pursue a PhD degree. If you have the passion to develop, to learn more, then take a PhD degree. It's some people they're fearful. They don't want to do it because it's kind of stressful. I know I've experienced that, but don't worry, because your supervisors, your team will definitely help you on that. As long as you have the passion, as long as you have that burning passion, you can definitely finish your PhD degree. It's just that in the PhD, you have to really devote your time, your patience, your whole self. Otherwise, it will be hard for you to finish your PhD. But I would really advise everyone, the undergrad students, to pursue a PhD degree.
I think adding to what David mentioned is that a PhD is completely different to an undergrad degree or even a master's degree. So a PhD is more like having a job with one project for 3 years. So my advice is like to treat the PhD as one project and like as a part of a work. My daily routine, for example, is to work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I'm an early bird. So I work from 8 to 5. Monday to Friday. And if you are organized and if you plan ahead, different to the master's or the undergrad that you need to work during the weekends or even at night to finish your assignments, study for tests, you don't have that in the PhD. So if you're organized and if you plan ahead, you can treat the PhD as if it was a job, Monday to Friday. So you have the weekends for yourself, and yeah, wow. Because we also have a personal life, and
work-life
but
balance.
yeah. So it's all a balance, and that would be my insights. A PhD is completely different to an undergrad.
Yeah, because generally, conventionally, we're just thought to believe that if you pursue a PhD or spend that time behind a desk, it's usually you're setting yourself up for academia. But as Jill mentioned and both of you today, it's different, and especially in a world that's completely changing, PhDs aren't what we normally conventionally think they are. They're actually a step up from making the world a better place, sustainably, environmentally.
From my experience, I was surprised when I started my PhD in Biopria, that I saw that all of the students that were just submitting their thesis, all of them, they had a job already, even before finishing the PhD. Like they had a job waiting for them. And this was completely different for me, because when I was doing my master's, I saw that most of the students were actually struggling to get a job. Whereas in Biopria, all of them, they had a job already. So yeah, so it was completely different. And it was a job related to the industry. It was not in the academia. So it was all industry related.
So I guess it's just redefining what PhD basically is, and making it an actual pioneer in terms of research and even industry. So yeah, Jill, as a final word, I would just like to for you to let the students know how they can apply for these PhD opportunities, and the timing and the sort of applications, and who do they reach out to know more about it.
So basically, the timing is to get funding, I would say, is within the end of the month. The 21st is when the application closes. And basically, I present for BOPRIA Institute that recruit a lot of people, but there's a lot of opportunity with other staff. So basically, what I would suggest is everybody to apply in the next 2 weeks to try to get a fellowship, apply and compete for that. If you get it, fantastic. If you don't, it's no risk as other thing. Second, here for BOPRIA, we have the money as we speak now. I'm recruiting 11, we're starting the interview tomorrow, 11 PhD. And I'm expecting to get another the prolongation of my grant to have 4 PhD on biodiagnostic. So we're looking for 15 PhD now. I can sign the check, I can recruit. And I'm Australian, especially with my accent. I want to have some students that come from Monash. And I would like, we're trying to get really diverse. We have, people from all over the world. We have as many women as men. And it's not because we choose, it's just, we take always the best. But the best means diversity. And what I wanted to say is we have fellowship and recruiting now. So apply for the scholarship, apply for PhD now. You can contact me. I give my email, or you can go with, I'll send you a list of projects, but don't wait. And my point is, don't look for everything to, the strike of inspiration hits you. No, it's hard work. That means you apply for jobs, you apply for PhD, and if you apply at Monash, apply Melbourne, apply other places. It is your choice. In a few months, you're going to regain your freedom. You had this freedom 4 years ago when you decided to be an engineer. In a few months, you have that. This is exciting. You have to assume this freedom. It has to be by choice. And after that, you see what you have. You have a good job in industry, a lousy job in industry, out it goes. One good PhD, one bad PhD opportunity that goes. And then you see what you want. And you don't work in fear, and go for it. So apply now. People, you can have my email. Apply, and don't go in fear. Don't put limitation. No, You know, yes, we want some strong student, but we give interview to everybody. And there's no a pattern. Everybody is unique. Each one has the strength. Like here you see Ruth. Ruth is a long distance ultramarathon runner. It shows. And we have David. David is a fantastic video and visual art artist. And we develop pattern. We have professional musician. We have professional drawing and designer. So basically, each one is different and unique, and each one will be treated differently. So apply now. Yes, I'm recruiting for 15 positions, but you know, there's great opportunities at Monash and abroad. And don't say it's the crisis, it doesn't work. No, crisis means change. The opportunity, everybody needs to eat, but everybody needs to work and so on. It's a perturbation, the rules have changed. We understand the change. Take reflection. Do not compromise for mediocrity. You're good, you're at Monash, you will not be at Monash otherwise. Go for it. So what I encourage is everybody now, after this talk, apply for PhD at Monash and elsewhere, and apply for job, and try to apply to get the first bad interview to be ready for your good job after that. That's my take-home message.
Okay, so just summarizing, wrapping it all up. Thank you everyone for being here. And then we'll put our contact details as well, so everyone can network and get in touch if you have more questions. Do we have any final comments or any feedback?
One question for Jill. Are we limited to domestic applicants, or are we welcoming international applicants?
We're advertised. If you go on SICK, we have an interview, we have an ad, we advertise all over. And as we speak, we're going to give 12 interviews. And unfortunately, I do not have a single Australian resident or student from Monash. And that for me, it's a failure. So I want to have at least one, and I'm going to drag my feet because I want to interview at least half a dozen students for PAS. So that's now. And we're going to do the same for the Biodiagnostic. And of course, you know, what I present is what we've done. I don't talk about the very hot stuff we're doing. So it's fairly relevant.
Yeah, for me, just letting you know that if you have any question or if I can help you with anything, feel free to contact me.
Will do.
That's amazing. Thank you everyone for participating in the panel today. And I hope you have a good day. And we hope to see some new PhD students next year at Monash as well. So,
Thank you.
Many
Thank you so
thanks.
much.
It's a pleasure.
It's a
Bye,
pleasure.
everyone.
thank you.